Greetings, I'm Bobby W6IWN, and today I'm here with
Derek, W7DLZ.
and
Craig, AE7I.
and you guys are in for a treat. We're gonna do a how-to soda video, but I brought actually the number one and number two for 2025 of the US soda guys, and I think they're like 4 and 5, or they're top 10 in the world. They don't ever brag about it. They're very humble about it, but I'm gonna go ahead and mention it. So that just being said, that means these guys know what they're doing and they have the right information to give you for getting started on Summits on the Air. And I'm very lucky to have them in my radio club as Elmers, and we can talk about and do summits together. So, what is SOTA?
SOTA is Summits on the Air, SOTA for short. And we go up to the top of specific mountains, not just any mountain, but specific mountains, and use our amateur radio equipment to talk to people around the world. And most of our contacts in this area are in the United States, but we also talk to people overseas. Most of us use very low power. And we operate either singly or in small groups, and have a great time. It's a combination of two things I love: amateur radio and outdoors, hiking, climbing, fresh air, and natural beauty.
So, I believe Summits on the Air got started in the United States in 2007.
I believe 2007, and it started in England originally, UK, I should say, in 2002. And people have been doing it in this country since 2007, 2008. I have not, but there are people who have been doing it that long.
So the very first thing I'm going to say someone needs to do if they want to start to do summits on the air is go to the SOTA.uk and make a SOTA account, right? Would you think that would be the first thing, is to start your SOTA account?
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, and I'll put all the information, and we'll jump into the computer a little bit closer, and I'll show you how to get that account established in the website. Okay, the first thing you want to do to sign up for SOTA is come here to sota.org.uk, sota.org.uk. And then right here, when you come to their homepage, there's going to be a link that says joining in. And if you go ahead and you click that, and it's going to go to how do I start? And it's going to tell you everything you need to know, some more about the program, how to register your account. It's going to tell you about the SOTA reflector. I'll get into that here in more details, but this is where the first thing you want to do is go here, register your account. So this is completely free, and like they're saying here, you can start right away. That doesn't cost anything. There's no membership cards issued or anything like that. It's just a program and its way of logging everything and earning your awards. Okay, back on the homepage of sotaorg.uk, there's also going to be SOTA Watch. And you can kind of see that here on the right as well. And what that is the latest spots on SOTA. So when someone goes out and activates and they spot themselves, or they're spotted on the RBN network, and however they're spotted, they'll pop up on this list so you can find them, and then you can chase them on the summits. So it's showing the activity right now of this. Look, there's a VK3 PF guy, and it's saying what summit he's on, and it looks like he's on 40 meters on the 7175 sideband. So you can also see more about that here if you click on the SOTA Watch. That's going to pull up the full page for all of the activations and operators. There's going to be a little bit more details on this, their comments. This guy's mentioning he's QRP, which typically most SOTA guys are, but so that, yeah, you can always watch the SOTA Watch. So that's very helpful as well. Okay, back on the home page again, there's also the database. This is where you're going to be doing your logging. So if you click on the database here, this is going to pop up this page. And then it's going to be the page for your account, and it's going to tell everything about your activations and show your different badges and how many activities you've had per year and all the different bands and statistics of your activations, your number one chasers. Thank you, Peter, and so forth. So you can see all that information here. Also, this is where you're going to do your logging. If you come up here to where it says uploads, this is where you'll do a add your import your ADIF files from stuff like Polo outside logging app. I'll show you that here in a minute. Or you can actually manually add an activation and transfer it from your paper. You would put your call sign here, the summit information, and the time, and then you would add the queue. So one by one. I used to do that once upon a time. I don't recommend it, but if you're just starting out and you only get a handful of QSOs, it's not a big deal. I personally like using a mobile logger on my phone, and I'll show you more about that here in a minute. Say you're at home and you chase someone that was on a summit. This isn't like POTA where you're automatically logged if you hunt someone. So hunting in POTA is the same as chasing in SOTA. They're the same thing, a hunter and a chaser. However, a chaser in SOTA, if they want to get credits, they need to actually log it on their end. So this is the same thing. If you were a chaser, you would come here and add a chaser QSO. You don't even have to be a ham. You could be an SWL if you wanted and just do that. If not, you would put your call sign, their call sign, the person that you're hunting, their summit information, the date, the time, the band, and so forth. And then that's how you would submit chasing a summit. You also have some other things in here like there's different challenges at times, and then these will pop up here. Um, there's statistics. I think that was what the homepage actually loads. There's some information on summits and associations under the summits tab. Then you can also see all your logs under the log tab of your recent activations, who's chased you or where you've chased. Completes. Complete is when you activate a summit and work it on it. But anyways, you'll figure all that out. So this is the SOTA website. You definitely need to get signed up here and get started. Okay, let's jump to the next thing that I find very, very important to finding summits. This is called SOTA Atlas. The address is up here, and once again, I'll try to post links below. It is SOTL.AS. And then this will automatically load the coordinates to your location as long as you allow your computer to do that. So you see all these dots here. These are all summits, and these dots are showing the summits by their difficulty and point range. So, like a green would be less difficult and less points. Uh, a yellow would be moderate to more difficulty with mid range points. I think, is there a darker orange? I think it goes right to red. So, red would obviously be your most difficult summits. And if we do zoom out on the United States, unfortunately, there's not summits everywhere in the United States. So that's just the way it is. So some states have the summits, and unfortunately, there's a couple that don't. So living where I'm at, we're really spoiled, as you can see here. So let me try to zoom in to my area here, and I'll show you how this works out. So we'll go to this summit, for example. So these are red, so this is going to be a more difficult summit. And then you see these numbers by the summit. So this one has a 32, this one has a 34, this one down here has a 71, this one has a 61. What those numbers are indicating is how many activations have been logged on that summit. So a summit with more activations might have more information. So if you click on this, that will pop up this and tell you a brief about it. But if you click more, that's going to go and pop up that summit. So this is Mount Rose. That's the name of it. It's going to give you the summit code, the elevation, 10,778 feet. It's going to list the summit, how many points it is. Summits go by 2 points starting at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So this is the base in the summer, 3 is the winter. And it tells you when you hover above it, plus 3 points will be added to that 10 between December 1st and March 31st when you get the winter bonus. So you can get actually more points in the winter. And I believe possibly Arizona, I think they might have like a summer bonus. I don't know about other states. I can't be sure, but I know California and Nevada have winter bonus. So you can come down here, and if anyone's posted any pictures, you can see those. It looks like a KN6 IWN. Oh, hey, that was me a long time ago. I think when I had my tech license. So you can click on the pictures and kind of get an idea of what you're doing and what it looks like. You might see some ideas of, oh, wait, there's no trees up there. Where am I going to put my antennas? Should I bring a spike or plan on guying my mast? That kind of stuff. So you could check out the views and that kind of stuff. It's going to show you the QSOs per band that people have logged on here. So you might want to check. There might be a summit and it's got a lot of 2 meters. That means that summit's most likely a good place to do 2 meters. You might see a summit and it has no 2 meters. That probably means it might not be the best place to do 2 meters. You might want to look into it more. Typically, 20 meters is you're going to be your most activated band. But you can look and see what other activators have been using, what modes, who's been up there recently. So this guy has been up there last. Kilo India 6 SYD Sid. So maybe if you weren't sure, you could look this guy up on QRZ before you left, before your activation, and say, hey, I'm going up there. I saw you were up there 2 weeks ago. Do you have any information for me? So this is a great resource, not just as the map. You can get information from other operators. And then as you can see, there's a green line here. That means someone placed a route. Someone recorded their route, how they walked up there. So you can download their route. If you go here to the link for their route, and then you can put that into your GPS and already have a pre-planned route. Not all summits have it, but this one does. So it's very good. You can also post your pictures, any articles that you might have and feel useful about this summit. You can also post your alert up here. So if you were going to go on a summit, in a couple days, you would just select the date, the time, um, your ETA. Remember, this is your estimated time of arrival of when you think you're going to be up there, what bands, and then a comment, hey, there's a lot of snow, might take me longer, or 2 operators, whatever you wanted in your comment. You can add there and then add your alert. And then people will know they can look at the alerts page to see who's coming to the summits. Okay, that's pretty much the brief explanation for SOTA Atlas. There's more to it. There's a whole lot more to it. But I highly recommend SOTA Atlas. You can look up other operators. You can look up summits by you. But just the mapping system and be able to see all the summits that are near you and get a closer idea and just be able to go through and kind of click and read and be able to plot where you're going and see other operators pictures, maybe get a track. You could always email them, get some more information. So it's a huge resource and lets you know where the summits are, which ones have been activated, what haven't, how many people have activated them. So I find this extremely useful. All right, moving on. There's also sotamaps.org. I don't use this a whole lot. I have before to import stuff out of here into my GPS, like all of the SOTA markers. That's kind of a more advanced thing and maybe a future video. But you can search through summits in here and find out more about summits and set up some filters for your area and only show certain summits and whatnot. So sotamaps.org is another resource you can use out there. The GPS app that Craig and I use is this Gaia GPS. This is an app for your phone. It works on Apple, it works on Android. This is a paid app, though, to get the offline maps. I think they do have a free version. I'm not sure what limitations are to that. I've had the premium version for quite a few years now, actually. So this is the app we use. Just make sure to download your offline maps. You don't have to use this app. There's other apps out there, but this is the app myself, Craig, and many, many other people out there use, not even just for ham radio, for a ton of things. So I literally trust this with this life or my life with this app. So I highly recommend it. Okay, moving on to Logger. This is absolutely my favorite logger. It's a whole nother video in itself, but I'm gonna break down the basics to you. You punch in your summit or your park if you're doing POTA, whatever, and then it's gonna have all the information. Sometimes can even pull them up by the GPS. You punch in your frequency. You can spot from this app if you have cell service. It shows you mapping of your QSOs. It's very, very handy. I love this app. It's available on Google Play Store. This is a free app. If you want information, more information on Ham 2K Polo Logger, I did a great video. Sebastian, the developer of this app, was so kind to jump in with Scott W3GTR, another YouTuber, and talk about Polo and the logging. And he gets into a lot of details and how to use a bunch of features. So he's the guy that's actually developing this app. He's out there doing POTA himself, and he knows how these things work. He's always improving in it, and he's always open for suggestions. So he does this out of the kindness of his heart. This is a free app. You can donate, and I do myself occasionally to donate to him and thank him for what he's doing because it's awesome. So it is a free app, but if you do feel the need, feel free to donate to Sebastian for all his efforts because this is a wonderful app. Okay, that's pretty much all of the software basics and Logger I'd use for now. So let's jump back with Derek and Craig. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about SOTA because Summits on the Air isn't just someone going up and activating, right, Craig?
Absolutely. You've got two categories. You've got your chasers and you've got your activators. The activators are the ones that go up to the mountaintop, set up their portable radio and make contacts. The chasers are the ones that are actually contacting them. So both are important. And SOTA is a awards program, so it gives you awards or benefits from doing either chasing or activating. Most of us are probably do both, but there's some that for one reason or another they really aren't able to go up to mountaintops or desire not to, and so they spend most of their time chasing.
Oh, and speaking of awards, actually there's one that's more of like a milestone. I'm not quite there yet. I want to say I'm about 80%, but there's the Mountain Goat Award, and I think every SOTA activator, they thrive for that one. And boy, you guys have done that a few times, haven't you? What are you up to on your mountain goats?
I'm working on my fifth.
On this fifth, haven't you done like two this year or almost or something
I did two
crazy?
last year, and
Wow.
I'm about 70% of the way to the fifth.
Yeah, I started in January 2024, and the only reason I've gotten all these points is because Derek's a maniac, and he keeps on calling me and asking me to go to on summits. So I've got two mountain goats, and working on a third right now.
Yeah, Craig started after me and just passed me. These guys are retired and they can go do this every day. I'm kind of more of a weekend warrior. I wish I had all the energy and the motivation that these two guys do. So, okay, now that we have SOTA Maps and SOTA Atlas going and we can get some information and even find out where these summits are, it's time to select a summit and by your skill level. And you don't always have to just go and do some big summit. That's what I think a lot of people are confused that summits on the air, you have to go climb some big mountain with ropes or walk 10 miles. You don't. And I don't recommend that you do that for your first SOTA. Start small and build your way up. Around here, there's actually a lot of fire lookouts, and those have roads to them. So those are nice ones where you can drive up and get really close and for your very first one, and then you can get familiar with setting up your antenna and your gear and that stuff. And then, or if you're going to start with a hike, keep it a small hike, and then plan and know your skill level. Just don't jump right into it and go big at the beginning.
That's right. And Derek will point out too that there's a lot of summits that have been done before, and there's information about them online. And probably more importantly is you really should go with somebody experienced when you go out at your first time. Trying to learn this on your own from scratch, you'll make a lot of mistakes. And you can avoid those mistakes by having somebody who's very experienced take you out.
No, I definitely agree. Because I started alone, and boy, did I learn some things when I went out with Derek, and yeah, I was just kind of winging it. So yeah, no, I've learned a lot, and I've definitely improved my contact range as well, and my level of frustration and overpacking.
I agree with everything they said. I strongly urge you to find someone who's experienced to take you up. Yeah, I've taken up several new activators in the last few months, and everyone has come back to me and said, "Boy, I learned so much. I had no idea." It will make it more enjoyable and easier to learn if you go with someone who's experienced. Now, if you can't do that, if it's not an option, you can always ask for information from activators who've activated a summit you're considering. But like I said, like Craig said, start with an easy one or a few easy ones, and go through the process. Learn how to set up your antenna. Learn how to get on the air. Learn how to handle pileups, things like that. With easier summits, so you're not all tired out and worried and nervous. And if you forget something and can't activate, you haven't invested a huge amount of time and effort to get up to a really tough summit.
Okay, next let's talk about preparation with Craig and Derek.
Well, Derek will talk about preparing your equipment, but I think it's important anytime you're going in the backcountry to practice the 10 essentials, or bring the 10 essentials, not practice. And that includes your navigation equipment, which should have some duplication. You want to have a headlamp in case it gets dark out with spare batteries. You want to have the ability to do some basic first aid. So you have a first aid kit, have a knife along with you, be able to start a fire. That's some say that's not absolutely necessary, but it doesn't hurt to have matches and a little lighter just in case. You want to have your emergency shelter. You want to have extra clothes, extra food, and extra water. And I'm probably missing one of the 10 essentials, but you can look it up. One of the big things for me is, coming from the medical profession, is the risk of dehydration and hypothermia. And a lot of hikers don't bring enough water or don't have the ability to get water on the trail. So it's important to bring adequate water and have the means to filter water if you need to come upon a source. And then also, it's easy to get, besides dehydration, you get hypothermia and hyperthermia. So, having proper clothing is very important. One thing about water, if you're just sitting around at home, probably having 2 liters throughout the day, that's, not optimum, but that's sufficient. When you're out hiking, especially summertime or wintertime, you can often require up to 1 liter per hour. Depends on your exertion level. So a lot of people, if they're going to go on a 2-hour hike, they probably should have at least 2 liters and sometimes even more. Wintertime, you get dehydrated and you don't perceive it. The other thing is, as we age, our thirst perception diminishes, especially when we're stressed. And it's easy to get dehydrated, and your blood gets thick. You've got increased risk of stroke and heart attack. So hydration is important to maintain optimal function and mentation while you're out there. So don't forget it.
Okay, before we continue any more on preparation, Derek has a good point. This is a brief overview. We're trying to get you started on how to SOTA. We can't tell you everything. This is the basics. This is hopefully will get you started and get you on your first summits and get you going. But you could always research further into this.
And as Craig mentioned, a mentor can help you avoid a lot of trouble and enjoy it a lot more. So we do encourage that. Yeah. So preparing to do a summit involves several steps, right? The first thing is selecting a summit, which Craig already talked about, so I won't go into that much. Getting tracks up to a summit is a really good thing. So some of the summits have tracks uploaded onto the SOTA Atlas. If you want a track, you can ask somebody who's previously done a summit, and many will respond. Maybe not all, but many will respond. SOTA activators tend to be a pretty friendly and helpful group. They're really, really helpful and want to encourage new people. And so I also suggest you start out with summits that have hiking trails. Many of the summits we end up doing don't have hiking trails, and we have to bushwhack. I encourage you not to start doing that until you've had some experience, or you go with someone. So you need to pack your pack, and we'll talk about the contents later, but I suggest you start out with a list of what you need and check and recheck it before you go. Set up your equipment at home and test it out. A dry run for a SOTA activation. Think about, if you're using a wire antenna, how you're going to set up your mast and stuff. Do a little research online. We have methods we use that are quite effective and lightweight. Weight in your pack is a big issue. It's a really big issue. So you want to keep your weight down but still carry what you need. So in preparing for the SOTA activation, you select the summit, you do a schedule, plan, okay? So how long is it going to take you to drive to wherever you're going to start? Trailhead, I'll call it. As Bobby mentioned, some of them are drive-ups. You can drive up to the top. There are others where you can't drive all the way to the top, but you can drive pretty near. I call them a drive near. Maybe a quarter or half a mile hike from a gate, for example, up a road. Others are longer hikes, but many of them are not that bad. Many of them a mile, 2 miles each way, not bad. So start with the easier ones. Do an estimate as to when you're going to get to the summit, and do an alert. I didn't realize how important alerts were until I'd been doing summit for, 5 or 6 months. And I met my mentor, Woody, K1LB, and he pointed that out to me, and I started doing alerts, and they're extremely helpful. That's another thing to consider, is where you're going to activate once you get to the summit. You got to think about how you're going to set up your antenna, where you're going to sit and operate. Do you need shade? In the summer, shade is quite important. In fact, our radios sometimes shut down when we've been transmitting for a while because they get too hot. So a little bit of shade for your radio is often necessary. Think about the roads you're going to have to go on and what kind of vehicle you've got. That's something to consider when you're choosing a summit. Some of the roads are closed in the winter, for example. Roads can get very rough, and not all vehicles can handle them. So consider that.
In the spring, there's a lot of trees that are still down on the
That's
roads
right.
from
That's right.
from the snow. So
Yeah.
yeah, and it's sometimes or maybe always, especially when you're first starting, it's good to have a plan B, because I know there's been a lot of times, especially the first time I've been to a summit, where I've planned this whole thing and it looks great in my mind, but then you get there and you can't, maybe you can't access it with your vehicle, there's a tree, whatever. So rather than your day just being wasted, if you have a plan B, sometimes even a C in that area, or maybe you finish the summit and you want to go do another one after, But yeah, it's always good to have those options. That way your day is not wasted, and until you start to know these areas and the summits and become familiar with them. Another good thing to have is a satellite SOS messenger, and I'm going to be upfront with you. When each one of us started, we did not have one. This isn't something that before you go do your first SOTA, you have to go out and buy one of these. No, that's not true. But it is great to have, especially down the road or to save your life, even when you're not doing SOTA. How these work is it communicates with the satellites, and you can send out an SOS message that will go out with your location. These are also handy. Some of them, they'll do two-way SMS messages, so you can send messages when you're out there to your loved ones, or they can actually track you. Depends on the device you get. I really like the Garmin InReach. Is that what you guys are using too now? Yep. They're very popular with hikers, backpackers. They're small. They're more up to date than some of the other satellite spotting devices. You can use your phone with an app to send messages. They have a lot of other features. I don't want to dive into it too much, but this is always a good thing to have. Woo! We've made it to the activation zone. Now what?
Well, now it's time to set up and get operating. So probably the first thing you'll note is if it's windy up top and you're a little sweaty, you might get cold pretty quick. So we'll talk about clothing later. But you want to set up your antenna, set up your radio, get a comfortable operating position, and then depending on if you're doing voice or CW, you're going to spot yourself. If I've set up an activation, the RBN hole will catch my CQ and automatically spot me. If you're doing voice, you have to have some technique to put a spot on a particular frequency and mode so that people know where to find you.
Yeah, and thankfully, actually, a lot, at least the summits that we do, maybe not when you're at the bottom, you don't get any cell service, but a lot of times when you get to the top of that summit, you do have cell service, but not always. But saying you do, you can just use your phone and then one of the apps, or go to the SOTA site and then spot yourself that way.
And also important is when you're going to a summit where it's a very popular summit, a lot of people coming up, it's good to be aware of them and not impose on their ability to enjoy the summit. I know we really love to hear, our radio blasting and hearing our side tone going out, and we're very proud of that. But it's kind of like when you're on a hiking trail and somebody's got a boom box, it kind of takes you out of the moment. So use earbuds if you got a lot of people around. Maybe set up not right on the summit where people want to get selfies.
Yeah.
Just be aware of the public. So.
And try not to impede the trail or any way. Yeah. Don't put your antenna over the trail. Maybe when you got there, there was no one there. But keep in mind, a lot of people do like to come to these spots to hike and take pictures, like he's saying, the selfies, and so we have to share it with everyone else too, most definitely.
And wind.
Yeah, and you want to, if you've got a tough wind, it's nice to get out of the wind. It'll reduce your evaporative cooling, which we all know how chilly that gets, especially at certain times of year. So you got to use the mountaintop, and sometimes the very top is very dangerous. I mean, you get a lot of trip hazards or fall hazards. So as long as you're in that top 25 meters, which is about 82 feet, you're in the activation zone and you're good to go.
Yeah, you don't have to be right at the tip top, and sometimes that's not always gonna work out for you. The very tip top, there might not be a big enough footprint, or like Craig was saying, to get out of the wind. Sometimes if you go on the other side of the summit, to get out of the wind and get down a little bit. In the summer, and even in the winter, sometimes the sun, like you might be getting sunburnt, even in the snow might be reflecting off you. So we'll get to it in the gear more, but yeah, think about your sunblock and your water.
Yeah.
And not only your radio getting hot in the sun, but you as well. And that there might not be trees on every summit. So you got to think of your gear appropriately and bring the proper gear for your climate. Okay, we'll get to gear and packs here now. So as you can see, not everybody wears the same pack or has the same gear. And I don't even always wear the same pack or bring the same gear because the seasons change, right? In the winter, I bring a much larger pack to carry all of that extra gear I have to, and clothing and whatnot. In the summer, I bring a smaller day pack. But sometimes, even in the summer, I'll bring my large pack because maybe I'm going to do 2 summits or there's some other reason I'm bringing a lot of gear to do 2 meters and HF. So it all depends on the circumstance. Okay, so
Yeah. And I'm just using the pack that I use for backpacking. So it's an ultralight pack by Superior Wilderness Design. So it doesn't weigh very much at all. But it's got all my stuff when I'm backpacking. You know, I've got my GPS, I've got my bug net, I've got a windbreaker right here, ultralight, and you know, I've got a water filtration system on this side, my snacks here, and then all my gear in the back.
see, and so Craig has done this a lot too, as well as Derek. Craig's also has a background of backpacking too, some long distance backpacking trips. So you got to keep in, and this is all lightweight gear too. So it's great. You got to think and pack the right things, but you can also pack too many things and weigh yourself down. So you got to think it through and not overpack, like everything he was talking about here. Those are all the essentials. He's done this a lot and he knows what he's doing. So yeah, just only pack the essentials, but double and triple check and make sure you have everything that you need. Okay, let's start talking about gear. Craig's got some items he'd like to go ahead and show us first.
You know, for stabilizing your mast, these flexible, let me get one in orange. These flexible wire ties are invaluable. They can go around a branch or trunk and then around your mast and hold it up. There's many ways you can link them to make them longer. So that's one thing that Derek showed me early on that was invaluable. I use them almost every activation. And then for my CW key, I used to use a clipboard. Now I really enjoy using a leg strap just because it frees my hands, and then I can hold my iPhone, which I use for logging. And it really holds the magnetic base of key as well. And when I'm on VHF, I use my handheld. This SOTA Beam's 2-meter bandpass filter, especially when you're on a communication site, is critical. If you go up there without it, you'll be basically deaf. Another thing I use is one of these lightweight battery banks for my cell phone in case it starts running low. And recently I got a device, it's called the SOTA Cat, works with SOTAmate, and that creates a local Wi-Fi hotspot so that you can do your spotting and alerting. It sends FT8 over my KX2. So it plugs into the accessory jack. That's a totally different subject that maybe one day we'll have Bobby talk about. The rest of the stuff is pretty much in common. Derek will be showing you a lot of his gear, which I utilize as well.
Caveat. Lots of different things work, and this is what I'm using, and it's working for me. Been working for me for a long time. And you don't have to use exactly what I'm using, of course, obviously. But, you know, I do encourage you to use equipment and techniques that do work, that are proven. Start out with something that works. That's my encouragement. And experimenting is great, and I encourage that as well. But always have a way of making sure you can operate. So I'm currently using a KX2 transceiver. There are a number of good ones out there for QRP use. I used to use another one, but this is what I'm using right now. And then I'm using it with a portable speaker. My ears are old and, and they really help me a lot. I also have earbuds, so if there's anybody who get bothered by the noise of the speaker, I'll use the earbuds. But for my use, the speaker is just easier for me to hear. And here's my clipboard. I do paper, pencil and paper logging. You can also use electronic logging, but for my use, the pencil and paper works best. And I have my own forms that I made that I use for each summit. I use another sheet, and it has 4 pages because it's folded. And I attach my CW key to my clipboard using magnets. So this comes off and comes back on. I also carry a spare key. I carry a bunch of spares. I've used many of them, most of them. I have some other cables and things in here. I'm not going to show you all the difference, but charging cables in there and other things. I've got some filters, bandpass filters for 40 and 20 meters. I might get 15, but that's what I have right now. I even have a little microphone. Adam's microphone kit that I got put together. But I don't use sideband very often, but I do sometimes. So that's my basic kit that I use every time I go up, pretty much. I also have a spare radio, which I'll show you in a minute. Here's some more, radio and electrical stuff that I bring with me. I bring a spare battery, which will run my KX2, or I do carry a spare radio as well. And I carry a charger. This will take the battery output and charge my cell phone if necessary. Very cheap on Amazon. I carry a headlamp and spare batteries. I'm not showing the spare batteries, but I have spare batteries and I've needed them. Here's the handheld that I bring on every summit, and I have a spare battery for that. So these are always in my pack all the time, 100%. Now here's some other stuff, antenna stuff that I bring. I actually carry a spare antenna. This is my primary one that I'm using right now. And I have a feed line, and I carry a spare feed line, which I've definitely needed. Cables tend to get damaged when you're out on the summits. So summits on the air is hard on people, and it's hard on equipment. I carry 2 of these actually. This is a piece of paracord, and I sometimes use that to strap my antenna mast up. This is an extendable mast. It's a 7-meter mast that I use almost 100% of the time. And often I'll carry a spare, lighter weight fishing pole as a spare. This is kite string on a kite string winder. This is actually for my spare antenna, but this is what I've used for years until I came up with this one. This one actually has the kite string wound right onto the end of the wire, which is on this winder, and this fits over the top of my mast and hangs it down in an L configuration. And these are the same kind of thing that Craig showed. Mine, I think, are a little bit longer than his. But these I use constantly. Like 98% of the summits I find a way to use these to hold my mast up. Like I said earlier, you need 2 points of support for a mast. There are other kinds of antennas you can take. I'm not trying to do a full critique of various antennas here, but I use an end-fed half-wave antenna in an L configuration, and I use these to hold the mast up, and I use the feed line, and my feed line actually has an ugly balun, which is a choke on the radio end, but this one has a built-in choke at the antenna end with a counterpoise. Counterpoise is not required if you don't have the choke at the antenna. You can use the outside of the shield of your coax as a counterpoise. Did that for, I don't know, over 400 summits, so it works. Here are some miscellaneous things I carry. I always carry toilet paper. Unfortunately, I do need it at times, and it's just wise to have it. I have a couple layers of clothing in this bag, which I do use. This is clothing that I haven't needed for a while, and I put it in this waterproof bag to keep it dry in case I get caught in weather. This is a foam pad. I often will carry 2 of them, and these I used to sit on. They make sitting on a rock or a log or, even the ground more comfortable. Or if I happen to be in the snow, it's helpful in the snow. This is a Right in the Rain notepad. And so if I happen to get caught with sprinkles or rain coming, I will pull this out and use this to write on, to do my logging on. And this is a medical kit, a very light duty medical kit. It's just some medical supplies in case. I have had my hands and arms and everything have gotten cut when I've been hiking, like right here. This was cut. It's almost healed now, a couple weeks ago. And so sometimes you need a Band-Aid or other things happen. Sometimes you even sprain an ankle. Or I rolled my ankle once on one summit. So, it's a good idea to have some medical supplies, light-duty medical supplies. So here's my summer pack. I use a larger, heavier pack in the winter because I've got to carry more clothing and other things with me. I carry water. I carry a fair amount of water. I have my Garmin inReach on one of the straps. I've got bear spray on another strap. And I've got snacks in here, and I've got some other things. In this case, I've got some gloves here, which I've needed in the cold weather we've had. I've got a ground cloth. Like I said, I've got snaps. I've got a little trowel for digging holes when I need to. This is a lightweight pack that's about 35 liters. And for summer use, it's just fine. For winter use, I've got a 55-liter pack that weighs about a pound or pound and a half more. But like I said, I have to carry more clothing to stay warm. When you get up to the top, even in the summer, I've gotten really chilled, even in the summer, believe it or not, because of the wind. A couple more things with this pack here. I've got snacks that I carry in here, more snacks. These are nuts. I generally carry nuts and some kind of jerky. I've got in here I've got a multi-tool, which is occasionally handy. I've had to, in the past, strip wire with my teeth when the wire broke off my unin. So sometimes you got to work around problems that come your way. I carry a fair number of other items in this bonnet here, but I'm not going to show you everything I carry because it'll take too long.
Okay, now that you've seen Derek, W7DLZ's pack, I'm going to show you one of the packs I bring. This is for sideband, W6IWN. I am a sidebander guy. I do use a multitude of different things, but this is my main summer pack. So I do like it. It's got the pouches for the water, and then just really quick, I do like and prefer these types of water pouches because when they are empty, this bag collapses and you can fold it up and stuff it up, and it takes up much less room than a hard bottle or something like that, and it's compatible with most of the filters. This is the mast. We'll get into that here in a minute. I also keep my Garmin, oh, that reminds me, I need to turn that back off, always attached to my pack when I go on a summit. So I keep a camera, obviously, that's always nice to have. I've got my headlamp, like I'm saying, don't rely on your phone. I keep a multi-tool. It's always nice to have a multi-tool. You never know if you're gonna need a knife, the pliers, the screwdriver. I've used this several times myself. I've actually been in the snow a couple times, and I've had people have problems with their skis or something that I've ran into out there, or their snowshoes, and they've needed it as well. So great to have. Tape, electrical tape. It's always great to have tape. Tape can save your butt, I'll tell you that. I might need to change this granola bar out. It's pretty smashed, and I don't know the expiration date on it, but it's been in there for maybe a year or two. But I'll always have just an emergency granola bar just to go along with the food. I just don't touch it unless I ever need it. And then a bug net in the summer or in the spring, mainly the spring when the snow's melting. I'll carry one of these because sometimes even bug spray. I will carry bug spray when needed to, but sometimes the bug spray won't do it. This is real light. This will go over your face, and it fits all in this this tiny little pouch here. So it's super lightweight, and it's good to have when there's the bugs. I also keep a compass for backup, and then if I'm going somewhere, I'll carry that appropriate map. Okay, on the inside here, I like to always carry an emergency blanket. I don't put this under my antenna and mess it up, actually, but I guess I could use it for the antenna as emergency as well. But I keep this for me, and I don't pull it out of the bag. I'm saving it in case I ever did need it, or there was someone that did need it. So one of these emergency Mylar blankets. Once again, it's light, doesn't take up a lot of space. I have some zip ties in here, and I do keep this in the winter time. I don't have a pack cover for this pack, so a trash bag is a super cheap way if it does start raining to cover your pack. That's why I have this in here. So I remember, so this is just a trash bag that's big enough to fit my pack. In case it was to start raining, I could put my pack and all my radio gear and whatever I brought and at least keep that dry. Okay, this is my basic setup. If I was gonna bring this radio, the Xiegu G90, which I recommend is a great radio for sideman, especially for a starter guy. It's got the 20 watts. I've had a lot more fun on this 20 watt Xiegu radio with a great tuner versus some of the 10 watt radios, even though I do some QRP as well. I'll show you maybe that radio here in a little bit. We'll get into the Xiegu a little closer and show you everything there in a minute. Bieno power battery. Let's see, I have a 4.5 amp hour. This is more than sufficient to run that G90 on a Summit, sometimes two, depending on how long you activate. If you've got a long lung, maybe you want to go to the 6, but this should be more than enough to get you going on that. So we talked about shade and have to be under a tree. I don't know if you can always find a tree, maybe where you're at. Sometimes I can't, or just where your radio's at. So I found these, and a lot of people have asked on the videos. What this is for a small dog tent. And unfortunately, I can't open it all the way, but if you've seen on my videos, this tent is just big enough, about the size of this backpack, and it will fit your radio underneath it. So I always keep this in the summer, because there's a lot of times I can't find shade for my radio. So this is really light and a great thing, and I've actually had a lot of people ask where I got these. I'll try to link everything below, but this is for a small dog tent. That's what I'm using to shade my radios for SOTA, POTA, and these videos you guys are seeing. A windbreaker. I usually always keep this, even if it's a really hot day or whatever, and it's all calm in the morning. This is a good light jacket here that if the wind picks up or if it did rain, it would kind of keep me you know, a little bit waterproof. And then depending on the day, I'll bring the appropriate clothing to go along with this. But this is usually in for my summer pack. Keep in mind, we're looking at my summer pack here. In the winter, I'll bring a larger pack that accommodates more gear. And yeah, I like to bring a pad and stuff to set it down. And yeah, there's a lot more into the winter pack. We'll get into that one maybe in a different video. So I carry a chair. This is super important. You got to be careful or comfortable out there. I think those guys might use pads. I like a chair. So this is a lightweight collapsible chair. I got the cheaper version. These I want to say are $40 or $50 on Amazon. There is a titanium version that's much lighter, but they're obviously more expensive. Someday I hope to upgrade to the titanium version, but for now I'm using this and it works just great. All it does is it opens into a chair and then you put the canvas over it and you have a place to sit. So you got to be comfortable. That's very important for me when I'm out there, rather than just sitting on some rock and being very uncomfortable after you hiked up that big mountain. All right, so here's my antenna bag. I'm gonna move the big backpack and we're gonna take a closer look at this and the radio up close, so stand by. Real quick before we get into the antenna bag and the radio, there's something I'd like to share with you before I forget. So a tip I like to do on a hiking pole is, even though I do carry some electrical tape, I've forgotten, or sometimes you run out, I like to wrap some electrical tape around my hiking pole. So you'll always have some tape right there wrapped around your pole. I also like to keep some body tape in case you needed some for first aid. Oh, that's also another thing I keep in my pack I forgot to show you, is just a basic little first aid kit for on the trail. Nothing too fancy, but all the basics. So yeah, I like to keep some body tape on my pole here as well. So if you ever did need to wrap up something, you've got that right there on your pole. You could just unwrap it and then use it. Same with the electrical tape. And then another thing I do carry is some of that orange ribbon, like you see marking trees. And then I wrapped it around and I used some Scotch tape to hold it. But let me pull some off to show you if you're not familiar with this stuff is. So you might see I used most of it already. I used to have several feet on here. But this is that marking ribbon that you'll see on trees and stuff. So if there ever was a tree or something I did need to mark on a trail, I could mark that, and then on my way back I could make sure that I remove it from the tree and then put it back in. But that's a great way to mark things that are hard to see. It's good to have some of that on here too. That's just some tips that I use. Okay, so I keep everything pretty simple. This is going to be not one antenna, but two, and my mast right here. So I won't get into too much detail about the mast because I've done a video on it. And so for those of you guys wondering, well, that's cool, I've seen all the gear. How do I get this thing set up actually and use it in the field? Well, I do have videos on all that. This video is growing a little long. So if you do want to see on the video on how to set up a mast, I use this fishing pole mast, but it'll work for any of these portable masts. I do have a video on that, and I'll try to post a link to it up here somewhere, and that's a complete video on how to set one of these up in the field for SOTA. So that's going to cover your mast. I also have videos on how to do verticals and all that, and I'll try to link those as we go too. So that being said, what this is a 21-foot telescopic crappie fishing pole I got off Amazon. I'll post these links below. I took out some section because they get pretty thin at the top, but this works for a suitable mast. It's all fiberglass, so this is obviously telescopic, and it's got this little cork in, and it's got a nice little bag it goes in. So very simple. That is what I use for my mast. This is my antenna bag. So I have got quite a few things in here, and I feel like it's actually kind of bigger than it needs to be. There's some things I've been meaning to make a little bit smaller, but it kind of is what it is. So we'll start with my main antenna that I've been using for a while. This is, I call it the W7DLZ. This is a handmade custom antenna by Derek that he made me quite some time ago. Being in my club, he's been very kind like that. He's made antennas and showed a lot of us how to make antennas. So he's very great like that. So I know he knows what he's doing, so I love this. What it is, it's a 40-meter in-fed half-wave antenna. It's super portable. You have your 67, give or take, foot wire here. It's there's no counterpoise involved. It's very simple antenna. It just hooks to your coax and goes up your mast. Once again, if you want to see that, go check out on that video how to set it up, how I show how to set up with a fishing pole mast. That'll work for any mast, and I do it, I think, with this actual antenna here. So kite string, are you wondering why I have kite string? And if you notice, this has a swivel on it. So on the end of my wire here, there's a loop. So when I'm running my antenna, I can extend it. I show that in more detail on the setup there. So this is very important for getting the other leg of your antenna out Once again, very lightweight. A SOTA beam, what? So this was, I think, my first wire antenna a long time ago. And this is all it consists of. So this B and C to the posts here, there's 2 wires on this antenna. You need a tuner with this, but it's a backup antenna. So if something went wrong with this antenna or my coax, I don't need to bring an extra coax for this antenna. That's why I keep it for a backup. One thing I would like to do is get it on a smaller winder though, but you just put the wire, 1 counterpoise out, 1 wire on your mast, and you're ready to go. It's not the greatest performing antenna, but it's good to have for a backup. So that is what else is in the bag. So there's the twisty ties. I keep a combination. I think those guys are already showing the twisty ties of those. And then I actually prefer my Titan straps, which is another way of doing that. And then these are super durable straps. These I can go around something bigger. I can actually hook them together and make one big longer one. So I really like these. These I can get a little bit more secure strapping with, but I do keep both of these handy for securing my masts or other things. So they're both great to have in my pack. Like I said, there's some things I want to minimalize. So I think this is some Dacron rope here, and I'll use it for guying my mast at times. And here's a little guy ring that I 3D printed that goes around my mast for guying it as well to work with these ropes. I'm thinking maybe something lighter duty, like some construction twine or something, might fit my SOTA pack a little bit better. And then I keep a couple tent pegs for guying if I ever did need to go down that route. And I'm not sure why there's an extra winder in here. I forgot that was in here. I'm going to take that out. And then of course everybody needs their SOTA flag, right? So I like to occasionally fly my SOTA flag once I get up to the summit and to show my activation. So that's always a nice thing. And I keep these cool Velcro straps on it so it's ready to go. And then what do you know, I've always got this SOTA flag pole with me right here, my fishing pole mast. So that's what's in the antenna bag. Okay, let's take a look at how I keep my radios packed in the G90 that I would bring for a lot of these SOTA summits. So what this is it's a SOTA Summit dry bag. So I actually keep this year-round because I have been out in July here and there's been thunderstorms that kicked up that were not forecasted, and I've gotten super soaking wet. It's even hailed in the middle of the summer, so I find it very important to keep this because I personally really like my radio equipment and I like to keep it dry. So I feel like the combination of having my radio inside this dry bag and then that garbage bag around my pack, I might be able to get it back to the vehicle and get it home safely. So that's what I keep in there. This is just a pouch for the G90 I found on eBay somewhere. It fits the G90 perfect. It's just got these Velcro straps here so I can keep my mic in my G90 and it's all strapped down all nice. Not sure why I still keep this in here. I do have a copy of it on my phone, but I have got the G90 manual. Why not keep your radio manual on hand in case you needed it? An extra pin. I don't paper log anymore, but I still do keep those things for redundancy and backup just in case my phone didn't go out and I did need a paper log something for some reason. Okay, let's get the mic and that stuff out here. So on this side, I've got my power cord, obviously, for the G90. I do keep an antenna analyzer. The G90 does have an antenna analyzer, but I like to keep an antenna analyzer out there for my own needs, and just to check on antennas. I keep a extra pack, even when I was a paper logger. I kept this. See, obviously I needed it at sometimes too because I wouldn't have written it if I didn't, to back up to my main paper log. So if I forgot that or something went bad, and then I have this little tiny pin I found on Amazon that just fits into my notepad here. So it's just a small pin, notepad for backup paper logging if I ever did need it. And then I keep it pretty simple. Like I said, I only bring what I need. There's going to be my filters here. I have a broadcast interference filter, the BCI filter by K9DP. This is in case I'm operating somewhere where I'm getting broadcast interference, which I've had happen before, and the front end on my G90 is getting overloaded by some AM radio station or something. So I do keep this filter on hand. And then also, I believe this is the 20 meter filter, the bandpass filter. So if I'm operating and there's another guy up there, I can get on 20 meters and then only hear that. Like say Derek's next to me and he's on 40 meters on sideband, I have a better chance of not getting wiped out and hearing him on 20 meters when I'm using this bandpass filter. He makes K9DP, different filters for different bands. That's what this is for. And then I keep a few different adapters to go from different types of coax and add coax, and then a PL259 to BNC. I'm not sure why. I have a PL259 to SMA in here, but I was doing something that required that. And there's something else very important you're going to need is coax. I love this RG316 by Chameleon. It has a choke in line. It's got the BNCs on it. It's perfect. It's super lightweight. It's 25 feet of it. It suits my needs perfectly for SOTA, and it's got a choke. So that's what I use for all of my SOTA rigs, is this BNC coax here. Okay, without getting into too much detail, here's another radio that I use. This is this IQ X6200, and once again, the Chameleon coax. I have my mic, power cords, everything in here, an extra logbook, everything the same as the other one. This has an internal battery. I keep an extra internal battery. This is a QRP rig. It's 10 watts. It's got the internal tuner. I will put links to both of those radios if you are interested. I do like this radio as well. This one is, I think, 8 watts with the external battery. This is the tiny little Biano power I use for it. This is, this is a 3 amp hour, so just a very tiny battery, and that will last a couple activations. This thing does great, but when the band conditions aren't super good, you're going to have a harder time on a QRP radio. You'll get a little bit better with that 20 watts, not a whole lot, not a major difference that you'll notice, but it's a little bit more punch. Both radios have the audio compression and everything, so I really like it. This one has some more bells and whistles and a bigger screen, just a little bit less power than the G90. And then I got this WinCamp pack off Amazon or eBay or something. So same deal, all the same setup, except I got some electrical tape in here. But yeah, the same deal going on with this. Let's take a quick peek at some antennas. So let's talk more about antennas. I don't always just bring an in-fed half wave, right? There's some summits I'll simply bring a little 2-meter Yagi. You don't have to have your general license to do this. I've done it with the tech before. You just have to find the right summit. So this is an Arrow Yagi. All it is a 3-element Yagi, and then it's made with some Arrow shafts. So there's a company that makes them. Anyhow, you screw it together, you hook it up to your HT with a short piece of coax, and then you point it. You got to make sure there's people on the other end you're pointing it. So this is another lightweight option that you can do, and just do this on 2 meters, 70 centimeter. This thing will do both bands, but I typically only do the 2 meter, and then I just carry the 2 meter elements just to make it a little bit lighter. That's just what I do. Sometimes I'll bring a vertical. I'll go into my wonderful stash of Chameleon here. This all doesn't go on the summit, by the way, but I'll just come out here. I'll grab the Chameleon vertical. I'll grab my Chameleon blank, and I've got some counterpoise made up, and then grab the Chameleon spike, throw those in my pack, and then I've got up to a 1/4 meter, 20 meter antenna. So there is another great option. So I love doing that as well. And you don't need a tree for that or anything. You just stick this spike in the ground, and then you can get this antenna tuned resonant on different bands just by shortening or lengthening it to the appropriate length for that band. So that's something I really do like too, is just taking chameleon whip out with the spike and the blank. You could also use a dipole, a random wire. I've used a slinky. I've got a video on that too. If you're interested, I'll show you how to make a slinky antenna. It may not be the most efficient, but you got a ton of options. So you're not just limited to an infid half wave and a fishing pole. You could use a vertical. So whatever works for you and your needs, there's a ton of options out there. You're not limited. You just got to get up there, got to get a radio, a battery, and then an antenna, spot yourself, and get on the air. It's really not that hard. It may seem complicated, but once you do it a few times, it's really not that hard, and it's a ton of fun, that's for sure. Well, I wanted to thank Derek and Craig for taking the time to share this with you guys. It's really hard to track these guys down. They're always on the mountain. It's a rainy day today, so on a Sunday, so things kind of worked out, but I really do appreciate you guys taking the time and your knowledge. It's always great, the stuff you guys share and the tracks, and it's just great to have you guys in the club, and just amazing to know you guys, and I appreciate you guys once again taking the time out of your day to share this with everyone.